going to go to the special final budget adoption meeting and hearings. We will be hearing final budget and truth and taxation, item 5, as well as item 6, flood control district board, item 7, improvement district board, item 8, library district board, item 9, stadium district board, and item 10 and 11, which is final budget adoption, and adopt the debt service final budget for this fiscal year 2014-2015. These are hearings. At this point, we have a number of people who wish to speak. Judge Simmons.
Thank you, Chair Bronson, members of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Huckleberry. Over the past 2 years, the courts have provided you with many memorandum and charts demonstrating the plight of our employees when it comes to compensation. Court employees in general are paid less than their counterparts in the market, their counterparts in the state, and their counterparts in Pima County. Both our minimum and maximum salary ranges are 12% below those of the comparators in the county's market study, versus the county being 1% below comparators. Moreover, the county's market study indicates that court employees' average salary is 6.1% further behind the market than county employees. This is exacerbated when we are talking about probation, surveillance, and juvenile detention officers who form the enforcement arm of the court. These positions particularly lag behind those of our chief competitors for these critical positions, as Chief Sanders' presentation to you in May demonstrated. As a result of this disparity, our court does a wonderful job of training probation, surveillance, and detention officers to work in Pinal and Maricopa counties. I am not here asking you for increases for all our employees. The proposal we sent you in March, the proposal we sent you last year, do not ask for increases for all our employees. We're asking that we be allowed to make adjustments for those positions where we fall below market, and in some cases, very much below market. You are asking the courts to do more with less, and we want to make the court work more efficiently for all, while still adhering to our mandates as courts. For example, a particular concern to you all at this time are the jail's crowded condition and its operating costs. We are being asked to look at how we can work with the sheriff, the county attorney, the public defender, the legal defender, and other justice partners to alleviate the strain on the jail and its operating costs and strain on the county's budget. We are happy to do this, but we are limited in what we can ask our already overstretched employees to do. This is particularly true when their workload in the criminal area, with criminal filings being up, is already stretched to capacity. I appreciate your attention to our concerns. I appreciate the time that you've spent with me, with Judge Adam, with Tony Helen. We will, as indicated, find the capacity to give the proposed salary increase to our employees and make whatever sacrifices are necessary in this and ensuing years to do so. Our employees deserve this small increase. Frankly, they deserve more. They also need some hope that you are listening to them and hearing them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge Simmons. Judge Adam.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Bronson, members of the board, and Mr. Huckleberry. I'm Karen Adam, the presiding judge at the juvenile court for 13 more days. But who's coming? My picture, my juvenile court badge picture has faded almost into oblivion. I have a new Superior Court one taken yesterday. There are 500 extraordinary employees at the juvenile court, and all of them deserve to be paid at the same level as their county counterparts, at the least and at best at market. I want to talk in particular about our detention officers, who are among the most disparately compensated. I like to personally deliver the longevity certificates to our juvenile court employees, and that's meant trips to detention for the last shift. On one of those visits, I was directed to a girls' pod, and there they were, the girls, lying on beanbag chairs listening to soothing music. They weren't in their own beds, but they would then be going to the beds in their cells, not their beds at home. I talked about the music with the employees, and they explained that every night these children either walk, listen to soothing music, do yoga, or are read to before they go to bed to help them sleep. Some of them have nightmares that won't go away. Others cry themselves to sleep. For many, it's the first time they've been away from whatever home they're coming from. These detention officers have been trained to do no harm and to lessen the trauma of detention while holding children accountable. What a difference a night can make. Detention officers are in a position that is unique to the juvenile court and critically important to our vision of enhancing the quality of life in Pima County by providing leadership resources and the commitment of our staff to strengthen our community and services for children and families while maintaining the protection of the safety of the community. Specifically, the detention officer's job description lists that they're responsible for the safety and well-being of youth. They're to develop positive working relationships with children, monitor and maintain structured, caring, safe, healthy, and learning environment for detainees. What does that mean in everyday terms? It means comforting an abused or neglected child who ran from a group home and stole food to live and has no place else to live. Right now, 1/4 of our population are CPS kids. Mentors a young addict who's taking cash from his parents and who's studying for a GED in detention. We have an extraordinary number of children completing their GEDs. Holding a young woman accountable for acting out during a dinner hour and finding out why that time is so difficult for her. Our detention officers start at $13.89 an hour, corrections officers start at $17.52 an hour, and I'm not suggesting that correction officers should be paid less, but they too should be paid at market. It's really important that our detention officers be brought to the same level. We're very grateful to you for your support over the years of our efforts to reduce the detention population with alternatives. Those who remain in detention are generally very low risk and very high need, and as I mentioned, often crossover or CPS kids. We seek out and hire those with special skills and training in order to best serve those children. Please help us make things right for these dedicated professionals and let us help them know that their work is not only critical but valued. Thank you.
Ron Overholt.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Appleberry. I'm Ron Overholt. I'm the Deputy Superior Court Administrator serving as the Administrator of the Juvenile Court. I speak to you today with regard to our touchscreen security system in our detention facility. We submitted a supplemental budget request requesting that system be replaced, and I spoke to you about it in May, so I won't repeat everything that I said at that time, that you know that, except to say it's ancient technology. It's central to our security in our detention facility and the movement of our children and staff within the security area of our detention facility, and it's broken. It sometimes goes down twice a day, many days in a row, and so it's a system that creates a real security and safety issue for our children and for our staff. So I raise it once again for the third time, just to indicate how important we believe it is to the safety and security of our detention facility and our children and staff that are in it, and ask that if there's any discretionary funds that you have available that you apply. It's a $250,000 item that you apply to the system. We also shot a video, one of our staff shot a brief video to give a sense of how long the hallways are, what the system looks like, and that kind of thing, and I can make that available to you if you'd like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
again, let me remind you, this is a hearing. As I call you up, I need your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Roger Putzi, I don't know if that's a D or a P.
Roger Putzi.
Okay, it's a P, okay.
Well, the first 3 people are asking for more money. Money doesn't come from the Board of Supervisors, it comes from us, the people who pay the taxes. I see during the last few weeks, we have a proposal for $8.75 million for soccer fields, another $7.5 million for open space, a total of $4.75 million just for down payment. The real problem is when these properties are removed from the tax rolls, the tax burden has to fall on the existing taxpayers. So not only is the public required to put up more money for the acquisition of properties, but also forever pay more taxes for something that is no longer paying taxes. My history of property taxes. 2006, 2012, first half, $6.95 thousand. First half, 2012, 6 years later, $11,700. Total increase of $4.75 thousand, or 68.36% in 6 years. And I should repeat that these 6 years were happening in a downgrade of property values. Where has all the money gone? I'm not in favor of new soccer fields, but if you want to make all these purchases, think in these terms. Instead of purchasing the property, have a private investor purchase it and then lease it to the county. In this way, you continue to get property taxes. At the same time, you get use of the property. That's all I have to say, and I thank you.
Larry Doppler. Again, your name, and you have 3 minutes.
It's sad that I've got to take a day off, or my morning off of work in order to address you guys, because we've contacted you guys, all your offices, months, regarding, especially after last year when our taxes went up 10%. And we did a little investigation and found that it looks like in the alley that you all want to build the I-11 freeway is where all the property taxes went up, especially ours, it went up 10% last year. And we don't understand why, and our big question is why our taxes are going to go up again.
Yeah, I mean, 50% of our community, where we live out in the country, are seniors that live on limited incomes. I'm one of them. And we just really, on a limited income, with our taxes going up last year 10%, this year you're asking for a 14% raise? That's an awful lot of raise for someone on a fixed income. And I'm not only talking for me, I'm talking for our community. Like 50% of us are elderly people. And, you know, it really makes it hard to keep your home, you know? I mean, you want us to be self-sufficient, but it's hard to do that if our taxes are so outrageous that we can't afford them. And then
Your pricing is out of our homes by raising our taxes consistently. It's like, what's next year? Another 10%, 15%? Who's going to be able to afford a home? And why could not we get an answer as to why our taxes went up last 10% last year, and get an answer from anybody as to justification?
Yeah, we live in District 3, and and they only fix part of our roads. We wouldn't mind paying more taxes if our roads were taken care of. Manville was a dangerous road before. They only repaved part of it to reservation, which didn't come down and include our community. You know, and so I'm against the soccer field for the reason that you're going to take the money from the roads. The roads are in desperate despair out there, and not only for me, but for everybody else. And we live out on Anway and Manville. That is, and neither one of those roads are in good shape to get to decent paved roads.
Both the fire department and ambulance services out there have said that they have to slow down and can't rush somebody to the hospital who's having a heart attack. They've got to drive a lot slower because of the potholes and stuff out there and the way the roads are. Thank
We
you.
appreciate your time. My name is Sandy York.
Thank you, Sandy. Steve Huffman?
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Supervisors, and Mr. Huckleberry. I, like MotoDog, have a bad haircut and I'm looking to get adopted, but that's not why I'm here today. I'm representing the Tucson Association of Realtors, and we're here just to let you know that we as an association are opposed in general to property tax increases. Now, we recognize the need to support law enforcement, the courts, all the services that the county provides. We recognize some of the unique characteristics of our county in particular, the huge amount of population that lives in an unincorporated area, just the sheer size of it. We recognize all those things. But at a bare minimum, if we're going to have a significant property tax increase, you know, most of our members don't understand the assessed valuation alchemy, where you say, well, your taxes are going up, but because of the assessed valuation, we're actually collecting less money than we used to in the past. Most people just see that their property taxes are going up. We have concerns about that because as a member of this community, we obviously are worried about the impact of any sort of taxes on affordable housing. We're concerned about the impact of tax increases on job creation, job expansion, attracting new industries to Pima County. We're well aware, and I know there are all sorts of structural things, but we're well aware, and everybody always talks about all over the state how Pima County has some of the highest property tax rates. We don't want that to have a negative consequence on people looking to move into our community, looking to expand jobs in there. And also, quite honestly, we're concerned about how this property tax increase could impact people's decisions when they're faced with maybe a bond election. If people have already seen their property taxes go up, how is that going to affect their decision on how they're going to vote for a bond package, which may include things that would really be of benefit to this community. So we don't want to price ourselves out of even having those options. With that being said, I would just like to ask for you guys to consider in the future, if this does happen, that at least we get some sort of commitment that as assessed valuation starts coming back up, that we see real rate reductions in that property tax rate, that this increase today doesn't just become a permanent sort of stealth property tax increase as values go up. So I hope you take a look at that. And the one other thing I'd like to suggest is, you know, we spend a lot of time talking about how we can bring in more people, tourists, people that come in. We get millions of dollars coming from our neighbors in Mexico that come up here and shop. I mean, you go to any mall parking lot around Christmas and it seems like half the parking lot is visitors from Mexico. We would like to suggest that there should at least be a serious discussion about having a dedicated sales tax here in Pima County, which could be dedicated to reducing property taxes. And it only seems to me like there's a principle of fairness here, that everybody that uses our parks, our roads, our county services should be paying into providing those services. And right now, in the absence of a sales tax, that burden falls 100% on business owners and property taxpayers here in Pima County. And I think it's at least worth discussion. We would like to be part of that discussion. Obviously, we'd like to see not just another tax increase, we'd like to see it tied directly to property tax reductions, maybe even financing, improving the roads, so every day when I drive into work, it's not dodged potholes. But whatever happens, we'd like to have that discussion. We'd like to be part of that discussion, and we would like to see property taxpayers not exclusively stuck with the tab for every county service that you guys offer. with that, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Carroll.
Mr. Huffman, nice to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
Thank you. When it comes, I appreciate the Board of Realtors input, but I also, as long as we have an expert in the room, can you tell us how the real estate residential market is doing? I know I'm seeing it, multifamily housing people, other people from your industry, but how do you feel? I mean, first off, you ever thought about running for office?
Not anymore. I like having friends. So.
Touche. But how about just a minute, if I could get an extension of your time, it'll be on me to house permits. We know what they're like at Pima County, but how are they doing in the other jurisdictions, and how's the market coming?
Well, I don't sell real estate on a day-to-day basis like I used to, but when I talk to our members, they generally tell me things are better this year than they were last year. They see definite improvements in the market. We went through a little bit of a investor period where people were coming in. That slowed down. I think we're getting into a more new normal market. We don't expect to see any huge property value increases, but I think we're going to see sort of things get steadily better, and that's generally the tenor of what I hear people saying.
And I just want, as a side, to explain, because we're friends, I've been opposed to the sales tax. It used to take a unanimous vote to have one. If you'd like to think about one thing, the only way that would ever happen would take a unanimous vote. I would suggest it be a vote of the people. So I just wanted to be on the record again as saying I continue to have that opposition, but I appreciate your input.
And I appreciate that, and I would just suggest to you, whatever mechanics we have to go through, I just think it's worth discussion. I mean, right now, there's no choice. 100% of everything that happens is on the back of property taxpayers. It just makes sense that if we could diversify that revenue stream, perhaps that burden wouldn't fall so heavily on people that own businesses and properties and things like that. And putting on my political hat, I would suggest with the requirement of a unanimous vote, there's never going to be another time where all 5 of you have absolute veto power over whether this goes forward or not. So if you want to put your fingerprints on where the money goes, if it's dedicated to property tax reduction or building the roads or whatever, having a unanimous requirement gives everybody a vote in this. Nobody's left behind, and it gives you a real chance to structure the deal. And I think that's worth something.
And Mr. Huffman, I appreciate those comments, and as you're aware, Pima County is the only county of 15 counties in Arizona that doesn't have a sales tax. Other counties indeed have multiple sales tax. So your equity point, certainly I concur with. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Stephen Eddy.
Morning, Madam Chair, board members. My name is Stephen Eddy with TEP's Government Relations Department, 88 East Broadway. First off, I'd like to state that TEP is very appreciative of the collaboration efforts that the county has spearheaded over the last few years to heighten and strengthen the economic competitiveness of the region, and in particular project portfolio. We look forward to continuing those efforts and working together to grow our community. With that being said, we are very concerned with the tax climate within the county, and in particular the proposed tax increases that you all are discussing today. TEP recognizes that modest increases in property taxes are warranted at a time when revenue and property values are decreasing. However, the 16.78% increase that is proposed in this year's budget could hinder economic development efforts that are being made by the county. In 2013, TEP paid $10.3 million in property taxes, which is a significant amount for any business within the county. With the proposed increases for 2014, that amount would increase to $11.6 million. That's an increase of $1.3 million. Unfortunately for businesses in Pima County, these costs eventually have to get passed down to residents and folks receiving bills and receipts within the county. We ask that you consider the economic impact of the increases in property taxes on all residents and businesses, and either reduce or delay those packages for another time. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If not, appreciate your time and consideration.
And why isn't Larry here?
He is in the Apache County Board of Supervisors, and unfortunately they had a fire up north, and they had to delay their Board of Supervisors hearing, and is now coming back to Tucson. But I know you received our letter. Appreciate your consideration for that letter.
Thank you. Supervisor Valdez.
Madam Chair, Mr. Eddy.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, last year TEP received a rate increase for residential 13.3%, commercial 12.3%, and large commercial at 14.1%.
That is correct.
Why do you need that?
What's that?
Why was that necessary?
We are a capital-intensive utility business. We need to continue to make upgrades to our infrastructure to provide safe and reliable electricity to our customers, both residential and commercial. All costs eventually have to be recovered by our customers, and property taxes are included in those increases. Now, granted, that increase was last year. We're not going in front of the ACC for another rate increase, but when that time does happen, we have to consider all the taxes that are borne by the company and eventually our customers, and that includes property taxes.
How is your providing service any different than our providing service, and how is that different than this?
We understand that, we appreciate that, but there are real costs that all businesses have to
Just like
eventually
real
pay.
counties have costs.
Yeah.
And when you raise your rates, it impacts us because we pay those rates.
We appreciate that.
If I could just interject,
Yeah.
the real truth, and I think what my two learned colleagues are trying to say is that we're all in this together, and you as well
I know.
benefit from those increases in an infrastructure needy organization, similar to ours. So that's part of building community, isn't it?
Absolutely, and we appreciate
Okay.
that, and we know that when partnering with the county on economic development efforts, we want to continue to grow the county. We know that takes services, just as we are in the infrastructure business. It does come at a cost, but there's a progression to how those increases can be put onto the residents and businesses within the county. And right now, we see that 16.7% increase is a pretty significant increase for all business and residents.
Mr. Huckleberry?
Yes, Madam Chair, I think the first thing is we need to correct, it's not 16.7%, it's 12.2%. Because we tax both on the primary and the secondary. You're probably referencing the primary. But our overall tax concerns deal with total taxes taken. Total taxes that are proposed in this budget are an increase of 12.2%. In addition, we do also feel the same increases that you do. And I think we'd be happy to trade our property tax for the utility rate increase. Simply, this year, actual expenses of the county paid in electricity is $13.3 million. With your rate increase, we're projecting that next year it will be $16.4 million, an increase of $3.1 million, a 23% increase. So $3 million of our property tax increase is related to increased fees from Tucson Electric Power.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Miller?
I'd just like to make a point, at the end of the day, the county and TEP, where this ends up on is the backs of the taxpayers, and that's taxpayers have expressed that they want to this, and I think that point needs to be very well made for the taxpayers in the room that have come to speak here today, and that's why, myself included, that this all ends up on the backs of the taxpayers. So I'm looking at all rates and the impact that it's having on the taxpayers, and both TEP, Pima County, gas tax increases, all of that is impacting the taxpayers. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Aren't you glad you were here instead of Larry?
I'm a little younger. Thank you very much for your time.
Jaime Gutierrez.
That's a great hair too.
Well, I'm already about it. Madam Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors, and County Manager Huckleberry. I have a letter here which I'd like to enter into the record, but briefly, I was here last month when I saw and I heard the graphs and the testimony about the number of county employees, the decrease in county employees over the past few years. And so as a former county employee many, many years ago, I understand the situation and the circumstances you all are involved in. I'm representing the Arizona Multi-Housing Association, and we represent about 38,000 multi-family rental units here in Pima County. And so our concern is that the increase, regardless of how you arrive at it, is a fairly substantial increase. And the bottom line is this, that whatever increase is given to the different property classes, those are going to be passed on to the consumer. The ultimate payer is going to be the consumer. Our concern is certainly, because we provide safe, quality housing, and so that increase, regardless of what it is going to be passed on, and it may make for our residents, our clients, affordable housing much more expensive and perhaps much more elusive. And so certainly on behalf of the Arizona Multi-Housing Association, ask for you guys to reconsider the increase. And perhaps go back and see if are there any other things that you all can trim. And again, I appreciate the role that you guys play. I appreciate the work that you have done, but certainly for us, the bottom line is the ultimate payer is going to be our residents. Thank you very much. Supervisor Bronson, if I may go ahead and hand this in. Great, thank you.
Arlene Kudarov. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Arlene Kudarov. This is Joanne Goulden. We have something for the county supervisors. I'll explain that at the end of my little presentation. We are here representing on the board of Tucson Beat Cancer Boot Camp. We have been very appreciative of the fact that the county has allowed us to utilize the building and the park at Brandy Fenton Park. And we just want to encourage you to continue to fund that park and to allow us to use that facility. We want you to know that we honor that park and do our best to be good stewards of your park and of the building there, taking very good care of it. Our organization represents cancer survivors, family and friends, of cancer survivors. Our theme is for health, for strength, for life. We use the facility to exercise and for support programs. We use the resource center we've developed there, again granted by the county, and we appreciate that, to bring in other organizations and use the facility for health workshops and other events. Not only do we use the park, but I can tell you we're there at least twice a week, and we see hundreds of people there on a regular basis. So it is a well-utilized park within the county. We do hope that you see fit as you're dealing with severe budget issues again, and we know what a challenge that is. We deal with budget issues on a much smaller level, that you continue to grant and fund that park. We would also, and what we have brought for you is we would like to invite all the supervisors and county employees to come out and work out with us. And we have little gifts. We work out Saturday mornings. Supervisor Carroll has always been a hard workout partner of ours. And so we've brought some little gifts for you to pass out later, t-shirts and water bottles to help you work out with us if you so decided to do that. And again, thank you so much for your time and appreciate your consideration. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor.
Mr. Huckleberry, you want to comment on their use of that facility there at Brandy Fenton and its ongoing viability, if you will?
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the board, I think we don't have any particular plans with regard to modifying the use of it or closing it. It's only if, one of the problems that we have is obviously we fund our first priority, because we're a county and a regional government, justice and law enforcement functions, and that unfortunately takes about 70% of the money that's available in the county. And so unfortunately, recreation and parks is always an afterthought. And it's always unfortunate because that's what most people enjoy. So I think we are going to continue to do, at least at the administration's level, everything we can to keep those parks open and viable in the future and try and enhance them. So I think hopefully you're embedded in that location for a long time.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We do understand your budget.
We all hope that, and your contribution is significant to our community. It's very meaningful to survivors of cancer and to the families that remain and have loved ones that they've lost. And that's not missed by any of the five of us. I want to make sure you understood that.
We do, and we appreciate it. We've always appreciated the county's support very deeply. I can tell you that. It means a lot to us.
Madam Chair.
Thank you for your service to the
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, if I might just say a little more
Please.
of the praises of Beat Cancer Boot Camp, which is now going national.
That's right.
Which is a very exciting, promising opportunity for so many victims of cancer across our nation. But you are the cornerstone of what began as these public nonprofit partnerships.
That's right.
Where you took a space and developed it with your own funding and your own resources and your own elbow grease to what it is today. And you also served as a model for the Ann Schmidt Tucson Soccer Academy, or for Native Seed Search, or the other occupants of the centers. I'm really proud of your association with District 4. That's where it started, and I'm glad that you have your home now at Brandy Fenton Park. And I just want to say kudos on the national expansion. It was at one time a nonprofit called Casa de los Niños when we took off for a national expansion, and it's a very worthwhile endeavor that you're approaching. It takes a lot of courage to do it, so good luck and God bless both of you and Anita Kelman.
Absolutely, Anita Kelman. Thank you, Supervisor Carroll.
Thank you. Robert Medler.
Good morning, Robert Medler with the Tucson Chamber. Before I start comments on the budget, I owe a public apology to the chair. We submitted a letter that I wrongly addressed to the former chair, and that is a mistake I owe you a public apology for, so sorry. So I'm here on behalf of Mike Barney, our president and CEO, and our 1,450 or so members. Most people have already really dug into the issue with the property tax, but when it comes down to is a double-digit percentage increase in a single year is going to severely slow down our economic growth that we're seeing. Talking to the businesses throughout the community, people are excited, they feel good, they're hiring, they're raising salaries, they're giving bonuses. It's the first time in 4, 5, 6 years for most businesses, and now they're going to have a double-digit percentage increase on their property tax that no one was expecting that high of one. I think all of us who are involved understand the 2-year lag, how you lowered rates or the rate, and now so it will rise it, but a double-digit percentage increase in a single year from the business community is just unacceptable. It's just too high. So with that, well, and I guess the other part, let's say, some of our members are the largest employers, also some of the largest property owners in the county. I know you heard from Mr. Eddy of TEP, many of the other utilities have significant tax implications with this that will be passed on directly to the consumer. I know you've all made your points about county, and I don't disagree with that at all. But it's the taxpayers, Supervisor Miller, you brought that up, that are going to be double hit on this. I'm excited. I'm purchasing a house, my wife and I. We were definitely planning on a different tax rate, and now it's going to be substantially higher. That changes it. There's a lot of people in my age demographic that we want to keep here, who already with student loans, financial burden, are trying to get into the housing market. Raising property taxes just hinders that. So there's that side of it. There's that component. But for the businesses, small businesses are not planning for this type of tax increase. So I hope you strongly reconsider all of the tax increases that you're proposing and think about that first. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jerry Arboni.
Madam Chairman of Board of Supervisors, my name is Jerry Ottoboni and I live in Oro Valley. I am shocked and disgusted. I personally just received an increase on my mortgage as a result of a tax increase that was passed a year ago. Now, because of you trying to pass another tax increase, my mortgage will increase by another approximately $100 a month, which is $1,200 a year. What do you have against seniors? I'm on a fixed income as most seniors, so how are they going to cope? I, like most seniors, have no way to create more income, especially since people don't want to hire people at my age. Do you want us to buy less food, use less electricity, which has been increased? Why can't Pima County Board live within their means? You want we seniors to live below our means, are trying to force seniors out of their homes. In a bad economy, some of you board members voted and passed a $35,000 a year salary increase for Mr. Huckleberry. That was very interesting, especially in our bad economy. Now you're trying to pass a huge property tax for your pet projects. Seniors who pay rent will have their rent increased due to the property tax increase to the owners of the property. Also, Mr. Huckleberry is pushing a bond which will again increase taxes. This is a bond for $22 million, 500 square foot, which is more than 10 million more than it should be for a dog Taj Mahal. If they check around, you'll find there's a wonderful opportunities in many states that have a very good facility for anywhere from 5 million and up. Perhaps we seniors should take to the streets stating that enough is enough, taking advantage of seniors and showing our outrage. What is Pima County thinking? How many seniors would want to move here when they see how the seniors are being treated and to drive on bad roads that will ruin their cars, and that's an expense? Look what has happened to Pima County budget in the last 10 years and what has not been done to this with this huge increases. I mean, for years the roads have been bad. They were cheaper to fix years ago. Why are you prejudiced against seniors? Many seniors live in near counties, near other counties. So perhaps we need to rise up and find a way to move the county line so that we can live within a county that knows how to live within their means and one that is not prejudiced against seniors as your actions dictate. Thank you.
Brian Lovett. Let me remind those in the audience to be respectful, no clapping, no outbreaks. Let's be respectful and give everybody an opportunity to speak and treat everybody again as you'd like to be treated.
Morning. I'm here to talk about our couple of different things, but I'll try to be brief. Every structure and organization is dependent on its base structure. Pima County's base structure really are the security, which are police department, fire, our infrastructure, which is our water, sewer, roads, and parks, and also management, which is you guys. It's incumbent on you as supervisors to ensure that you meet your constituents' needs through the infrastructure, that they're reliable and dependable, and to meet your commitments, not change them. When you make a commitment, live up to your commitment. If you fail to meet your commitment, or your commitments are not reliable, you fail us as constituents. You fail us as constituents, and you fail as your duties as supervisors. Key issues I want to talk about are roads and parks. I heard the comment saying, I interpreted the comment that parks are an afterthought. They're not important because we have lots of other things to do. Well, apparently our roads are not important either, because you're taking money that's intended for roads to divert it to other areas. That shows your lack of reliability and dependability that we as constituents are dependent on you to be reliable and dependent. Tucson's been rated as one of the poorest roads in the nation. I'm an avid cyclist on the El Tour, saw numerous cyclists fall down and have severe injuries because of major separations in the roads where you guys have failed to get the roads repaired correctly. And it also affects our visitors. Our visitors come here and go, you gotta be kidding me with the poor roads. Our existing parks, community parks have been let go. They're not being taken care of. Community parks, local community parks, one in my neighborhood hasn't been updated for over 20 years. There's still a lot of kids, people come from miles around because ours is a park that is used by a lot of different groups from soccer and football and other areas. And you're failing to keep those up to date and making it dangerous for your constituents. By doing new stuff before you take care of the structure, you're also showing lack of commitment to it. For example, taking money from one area and giving it to the other, hijacking money for impact fees. Those are all areas where you've, again, showed lack of commitment. Now there's a new proposal to take soccer fields and spend money because the problem seems to be too big, as a quote was in the newspaper from Mr. Huckleberry. That's your problem to fix for us as constituents, not just to divert it.
Karen Caesar.
I'd just like to reiterate what this lady from Farmer Valley had to say. First became interested in this when saw the Arizona Star article quoting Mr. Huckleberry that $3.3 million is a drop in the bucket, something to that effect. He may want to correct the wording, but it is my feeling that as stewards of our collective money, $3.3 million is not a drop in the bucket. And if it's a drop in the bucket because the roads have not been fixed properly in the past, again, that is your problem. We have, as a homeowner, if I have a leaky roof and I decide to build a swimming pool instead of fixing my leaky roof, you're going to tell me there is something wrong with the way I'm using my resources. To build a soccer field when we have poor roads, and as another man mentioned, some of the existing parks, there are other ways to get additional funds. We have, within the county, we have bought up over the years, I think this is my money, we have bought up all kinds of land over the years. Now, if I had a large parcel of land and I decided that I wanted to buy something over here, I might split off a little bit of my land over here that I may have bought and wished I hadn't, or maybe saving for some other, who knows, God knows what, purpose, and I would take that land and I would sell it, rather than putting an added burden on the backs of the taxpayer. Our taxes are going up, you come up with bond issues, enough is enough. I thought I was going to speak after my husband. You can hear my voice, that I'm extremely uncomfortable speaking in public. Was going to come up with him, didn't. And I guess that's all I have to say. Now, I don't know. I would really like to know whether this was unfortunate wording in the paper from Mr. Huckleberry, or whether this is how he feels about this tiny, minuscule $3.3 million. Because if you don't have use for it, I'd be happy to use it. Thank you.
Claire Morgan.
Madam Chairman, Board, and Mr. Huckleberry. I am also opposed to the increase in the property taxes. My question is, Pima County has more debt than any other county in the state. In fact, all of the other counties added together are less than our debt. So my question is the purpose of increasing the burden on the taxpayers, are you going to put it towards the debt? Also, our monies, since this is our taxpayer dollars, I think we need to make sure that these dollars are dedicated to the essentials. We heard some essentials from our courts, also the Sheriff's Department, and our roads and parks. These are what we are responsible for providing the funding for. Not soccer fields, which would increase a debt. We don't need these soccer fields. Not contributions to the U of A, as much as I love the U of A, 15 million to the U of A and only 5 million for roads does not seem an appropriate use of taxpayer monies when our needs are not being done. Galas, the Canine advertising business, the Oracle Wildlife Bridge, these are not essential items. And so what I am recommending, and then you heard I'm a senior myself. What in the world is going to happen? Tucson is a wonderful senior community, and so is Pima County. But you're hurting the seniors by doing this. And what's happened in many states like Pennsylvania, you've got seniors have $60,000 of property tax. They have to go and work jobs. Sometimes they are file clerks at the county in order to help pay their property taxes. I don't want to see that happen here in Pima County, but it has happened in several states around and counties around the United States. So what I'm recommending is responsible spending, where we are only spending on what we should be spending on, namely our Sheriff Department, our courts, our roads, parks. These are the essential items, and these are not being addressed. So that's, I think, my point. Thank you very much.
Angela Putzi.
First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak to you. In a time in all of our lives when so many residents are badly being able to hold on to their properties, to consider having a soccer field seems to us a luxury, to all of us. How many of us that reside, our family members, will ever use this field? And what about the now residents having to foot this endeavor for the many years to come? Many of us residents also would love to improve our own properties. I, for one, for many years, would love to improve our swimming pool, build a tennis court. These two things alone would run into the thousands of dollars for us. And it then becomes a luxury to us. And it becomes a wish and not a reality. Because our homes, our taxes, have to be paid first of all, along with our various living expenses that exist. Don't get me at all wrong, for we that live in this county love our beautiful home sites and mainly our land. And we live here in the county because we choose to live there and not in the city, and mainly again because of the beautiful land. But at the same time, the county should be more realistic to its taxpayers' needs. I could see the roads, like many have said, improved in the county as well as in the city, so that gutters could greatly improve the main runoff of the rain, instead of depending totally on the evaporation of the sun. And the roads continuously, years since we've been here, about 40 years, having to be rebuilt, redone in the coming years. Something that would benefit our county and mostly its paying residents. After all, soccer is Italy's main sport, but we live here in Tucson, Arizona, and again, the majority should be more attentive to our needs. And isn't that the main reason, is it not, that we are all present here today? And I wish again to thank all of you to allow me to speak to you all directly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I ask you to identify yourself with your name and address for the record, because you didn't do that at the beginning of this talk?
No, I sent the paper in later. Angela Putzi?
And we don't, Supervisor Elias, we don't do addresses anymore.
Well, whatever. I just wanted to ask her to identify herself.
Right.
Thank you, ma'am. I didn't mean to trouble you.
No. It's on the card.
I know, but they have to have it for the record.
Leah Marquez Peterson.
Good morning. My name is Leah Marquez Peterson, and I'm the president of the Tucson Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Chairwoman Bronson, Board of Supervisors, and Mr. Huckleberry. The Tucson Hispanic Chamber represents more than 1,000 member businesses in southern Arizona and Sonora, with the majority of them located here in Pima County. We request that the Board of Supervisors consider the economic impact of the proposed budget and its recommendation to increase primary property taxes. The proposed budget currently recommends an increase of 16.7%, which is a drastic increase to our business community. Such an increase impacts the vitality of our existing business community and may deter companies from relocating to our county. While homes and small businesses are certainly affected, this also impacts our largest employers in the community the most. Chamber companies with multiple locations have expressed concern over a six-figure increase in property taxes here in Pima County. Such a tax increase may impact their ability to expand and to hire new positions in Pima County as they consider the financial burden compared to other counties in our state. Our community has just begun to recover from this economic downturn, and it's been very slow. We're not ready to right the budget shortfalls that the county has experienced over the last several years. We ask that the board consider each of the components of the proposed primary property tax carefully. Tough decisions within the county to delay projects or forego improvements must be made. Funds must be found elsewhere for the priority initiatives the county wants to develop. We calculated the 16.7% increase based on the newly proposed 33.27 cent increase from the rate of 3.665 approved in May, making the new property tax rate 4.2779 for $100 of assessed value, which was an increase of 61.14 cents this year, or to us an increase of 16.7%. We ask that you reconsider the primary property tax increase for the future, perhaps. Our business community continues to recover financially from the recent economic downturn, and we need the time and the predictability to become healthy again. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you. John Caesar.
Good morning, my name is John Caesar. I'm Chair, Board of Supervisors, County Manager. My wife is much more articulate than I am. A couple bullets that she didn't touch on. As her blood pressure went down, mine went up. I want to reiterate my concern on the never-ending increase in property taxes, bond issues, and continued purchase of lands. I'm a great ATV advocate. I go out to Rancho Seco. Only ones I see, I won't mention who I usually see out there, because they're supposed to be, not supposed to be out there, but what is driving the county managers, which must be the Board of Supervisors, because he works for you guys, you ladies, what is driving his never-ending cost to acquire the 25% of Arizona that isn't already controlled by the state or the feds? It can't be more open space because I don't see anybody out there, and I go all over the roads. I'm not going to get into any of the other things that some of the citizens are concerned about, jobs. I'm a senior citizen, doesn't make any difference. Does give me time to go out to the open spaces. We don't need any more open spaces. With respect to the soccer field, in the two comments that are in the Arizona Daily Star, one was opportunity of the decade, quote unquote. Somehow I remember that back when the ball field, TEP, was built. Opportunity of the decade, good opportunity. Same hyperbole used with the $250 million spent. Renewable. We have a stack of paper. Kill a lot of trees, but there's no hotel. Opportunity of the decade. I think that's right across from the Field of Dreams. One comment that sort of analogy that my wife left off, we talked about, with respect to the comment that 3.3 is a drop in the bucket. With that logic, if we've got 100 people dying and we have a doctor with 10 pills that can save 10 people, let the 100 die because we can't, we can't, we only have 10 pills. Anyway, enough is enough. Thank you for your time.
Stacy Litvick.
Good morning, Chairman Bronson, supervisors, and Mr. Huckleberry. My name is Stacy Lidbeck. I have a few questions and comments regarding the proposed land acquisition for soccer fields. First, what are new soccer fields doing on the list of county priorities? Possible benefits of this project are preceded by could, might, and if. Right now, we have real problems that need to be addressed, such as roads, economic development, and basic county services. Taking money from funds allocated to real problems to pay for could, might, and if does not make sense. It is like having a roof with many leaks and saying, instead of patching the worst holes in our roof, we will take the money and buy a jet ski because we can't afford to fix the whole roof at once. We don't really know what this is going to cost or how it will be paid for. Final costs for these projects always go over budget. What will ongoing maintenance cost and who will pay for that? To have value, a facility of this type needs to be kept in top condition, and that's not cheap. To help you prioritize, let me ask you this question. If your funds were cut in half, what would you spend money on? Services that citizens expect and require of county government, or new soccer fields? Who really benefits from this? The two immediate beneficiaries appear to be the current landowner, Stardust Reef, who unloads a property they cannot use profitably right now, and soccer enthusiasts. The vast majority of county taxpayers will never even see the place. We all deal with bad roads, county services, and economic malaise daily. If this is such a good idea, I suggest that it be developed privately and paid for by those who would enjoy its benefits. Finally, revenues. Just a reminder. Unlike regular business, government revenue does not come from customers willing to part with hard-earned cash or go into debt for goods and services. Government money is taken basically by coercion from the people, us, that's everybody in this room and all the people in this city and the county, who actually need to earn it doing something that someone else is willing to pay for. We taxpayers know we need to prioritize our spending. If we perceive value in how government spends our money, then we are okay. Maybe not happy, but at least okay with handing over the cash. If not, then we start getting upset. The county is not awash in cash. You supervisors currently have this county, that is us, the taxpayers, in debt at over $1.4 billion and are proposing to raise taxes again. There are real needs that need to be funded, and you want to spend more of our money on what? Soccer fields? Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Lori, C-U, and then I can read the rest.
It's Cuoco, Italian, Cuoco.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Lori Cuoco. My husband and I were married in Pima County in 1993 and then went on, left here, joined the military. Between the two of us, we have 4 combat tours in Iraq. We came back here. He'll be retiring in 3 years. I'm retired. Our property taxes have gone up 47% in the last 4 years. Our Trico electric has gone up. We built a greenhouse, to try to help the community. We love Tucson. We love this place, but we will be leaving. I understand, some notes from other people said Pima County has the most debt in the state. The #1 employer in Pima County is local, state, or federal government. Meaning the pool that you're pulling from private companies and people is very small. The money that's being generated. I think in fiscal year 2012, a total of 890 private jobs were created in this county. So I understand, I heard someone say you're taking in less money. You know what? Boo-hoo. I'd like a vacation to Italy. Okay? I haven't had a vacation in 3 years. I don't understand. You are holding yourself to a standard that is completely ridiculous. You're taking the money that we earn and you're using it irresponsibly. If this was a private company, management would look at these statistics and you'd all be fired. I ran a private company for 14 years. The #1 thing in my company was my employees. You can't pay these court people a going wage? Do we need a park? No, we need working roads. We need government services. I need the Pima County Sheriff to respond when we call them, not 45 minutes later, because they're overtaxed. You really need to search your souls and think about what you're doing here. This is our money. You've failed. You've failed the people of your county terribly. And it's deeply upsetting to someone who's put her life on the line for this country. And I would like to know, Madam Chair, what do you find offensive about people clapping? Nobody was yelling out or causing a problem. Clearly, if you have no answer to that, then I think when people would agree that clapping is okay. Nobody was hassling or yelling out at all.
We need to have decorum in this room.
Is that a lack of decorum?
Yes, I would say
How?
so. I think it is, and I think that,
It's a good thing you're in public office, because you need a much tougher skin for the Marine Corps.
Ted Schmidt.
Good morning. My name is Ted Schmidt, Madam Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors. I'm the president of the Pima County Junior Soccer League, as well as the Arizona Youth Soccer Association District Commissioner for Southern Arizona. Just a couple of real quick things for you. I sent you all an email this morning to some really interesting facts from people for land trusts that demonstrate that, for example, Tucson has 2.7% city acreage allocated for parks. That's compared to 5.9% for comparable cities and 8.3% on a national basis. Tucson is number 34 out of the top 50 most populous cities in the state, or I mean in the country, for population comparison to park space. People within that have a park within a mile of where they live. We have over a little over half, 51.8%, when the top 8 cities are all in the 90s. This is what the soccer field is about. It's about kids. It's about our future. It's about our children who need more park space to recreate. It's about an obesity epidemic. It's about a need for providing for them. We didn't do this in the past. It is an opportunity. Opportunities come by and then they go and they're gone. There's an opportunity right now to do something for our kids and for our community. If we go forward with this project for the soccer fields, you can look only 2 years back to Phoenix when they hosted the regional soccer tournament and it brought in $12 million. We have been told that if we had the facilities, if we had a location that had adequate fields in one location, they would welcome Tucson and Pima County taking on regional competitions both for U.S. youth soccer as well as for Olympic development programs. We also are very sorely in need of more fields just to practice and play on, but especially in that side of our community. So that's, I think I'm almost out of time.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Liz.
I'd just like to comment that, Mr. Schmidt brings up a good point, and that same Far West Regional Tournament is being held in Albuquerque this week as we speak, and they're estimating that their economic return is about $15 million. So it continues to grow, even from several years ago when it was held up there in the state of Manitoba.
Hopefully we'll hear from the lacrosse folks too. They have many, many opportunities. One last thing I was derelict I want to thank Supervisor Carroll for mentioning my former partner, Robert Beal, attorney here in town for many, many years, and also for mentioning my wife's clubhouse over at Brent Fenton. Thank you, folks.
Victoria Davis.
My name is Victoria Davis, Madam Chair and Supervisor or County Administrator, Mr. Huckleberry, and the board. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you. Just as an aside, I would love to adopt this dog and give him a home, but you're so busy devouring widows' houses that I can't provide a home for him. I barely can hang on to my own. I just wanted to thank Allie Miller for the excellent job she's been doing of asking questions and doing the work that we elected her to do. I'm disappointed with the votes against her and the refusal to admit that you have been absolutely horrible agents or guardians of our money. You have wasted it, you are in debt, you have put us in debt, and you continue to think that, for the children, let's get a soccer field. Anyway, and the one we have now we're in debt for. And you need to be reminded that James Madison, who played an important part in writing our Constitution, acknowledged that we are not angels and we need government. But since government is run by men and women, and you're not angels, we need protection from you. He said, all people having power ought not to be trusted. And paraphrasing Benjamin Franklin, there is scarce a county supervisor in 100 who would not, if he could or she could, follow the example of Pharaoh. Get first all the people's money, then all their lands, and then make them and their children servants forever. And Alexander Hamilton wrote, till the millennium comes, in spite of all our boasted light and purification, Hypocrisy and treachery will continue to be the most successful commodities in the political world. And each of you who votes for this horrible budget is a tyrant. You are, anyway, hypocrites and treacherous. You're devouring widows' houses. I built my home with my husband here in 1972. I am barely hanging on to be able to afford your taxes and the food increases and the electricity and the phone and all this other stuff. And I just think you need to acknowledge the fact that you are not more smart than us. You don't know how to spend our money better than I do, which you proudly told me the last time I spoke here. You do not know that. And you need to be better guardians and get us out of debt and stop this nonsense. Thank you.
I mean it about the clapping. Please, be respectful. Thank you. Susan? Mm-hmm.
Madam Chairperson, Board of Supervisors, and Mr. Huckleberry. Oh, sorry, excuse me, I moved over. I'll start over quickly. Madam Chairperson, Board of Supervisors, and Mr. Huckleberry, my name is Susan Litvak. As a Pima County resident and taxpayer, I am very concerned about some of the issues in front of the Board of Supervisors and Mr. Huckleberry. Today I want to focus on three. I was going to talk about property taxes, but that's already been addressed by many others. The first one, Pima County is $1.4 billion in debt, and you are now considering purchasing 170 acres of land for close to $9 million for soccer fields. Have you done any studies to justify this purchase? And what about the annual cost of maintaining these soccer fields, which will undoubtedly require a lot of water? And will taxpayers vote in favor of the November 2015 bond issued to fund the purchase? Why not use these monies for our roads instead of proposing an increase in the gas tax? What about attracting businesses to grow our economy and offer more and better jobs? I think you should remember the money is ours, not yours. It's the taxpayers' money. And contrary to what Mr. Huckleberry said, $3 to $5 million is material to many of your constituents. Number two, I am very concerned, this is an aside, but I'm very concerned that our Deputy Administrator, Mr. Willett, is suing Pima County for injuries that occurred because apparently he was careless and was not paying attention while he was riding his bicycle. I've bicycled since I was a kid on the Dodge Street, and have bicycled on the Dodge Street Bridge for many years. It has a wide enough bicycle lane. Pima County will never have enough money in its budget to make unnecessary settlements as a result of frivolous lawsuits, not to mention the risk of encouraging them. Third and last, we taxpayers expect our supervisors and administrator to be responsible, professional, fair, and transparent. Your recent decision to move road repair dollars from District 1, which as I understand it pays about 1/3 of the property taxes in Pima County, to the colossal cave area, appears to have been vindictive. If that is true about this decision, then it was not one of your finer moments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bart Pemberton.
Thank you, Board, for having the meeting today. My name is Bart Pemberton. I'm in District 1, and I believe respect is very important as well, and I think first and foremost respect and deference should always be given to the taxpayer. According to the county's own numbers, between the HERF funds and vehicle license taxes that are collected, last year alone they got over $40 million. And those are supposed to go to roads, and that's even after the legislative sweeps that were done. So, but last year, only $5 million was allocated to the roads. What the heck was the other 35+ million spent on? I think we should have an explanation on that. Presumably, we're going to have over $40 million collected in taxes that are specifically for roads. And yet this year, again, only $5 million is going to be spent on roads. and we're gonna spend more on a single parcel of land than we are on all of the roads. That is not respectful to the people that work hard for their money and have the money taken from them in the form of taxes. We've had at least 2 or 3 property tax increases over the last few years. I don't want to pay any more, and I don't think my family should have to do with less, because the money's getting misspent anyway. So why can't we put 100% of the HERF and vehicle license tax fees to the roads? Why can't those?
We are. They are required by law, and we are doing
The last year's budget was $5 million for
that. No,
roads.
last year's budget, the $5 million you're talking about were general fund dollars that were also allocated for road repairs. That is the first time we have done that. We have done that because our HERF revenues are shrinking, and in the past several years they've been swept by the legislature. But the HERF funds go for roads. That's the reality, so you're misinformed.
According to Mr. Huckleberry's own numbers, that I've got it right here in a PDF, the county received over $47 million in HERF and VLT fees. Out of that almost 48 million, 3.7 million was swept by the legislature. That's according to this. Now maybe this is wrong, but that's what this says. And so there was a total of well over $40 million. And are you guys saying that much money was spent on the roads last year? Yes. I don't think so.
Yes, that's correct.
You can't tell.
Madam Chair, I think we're talking, Madam Chair,
Supervisor Miller.
I think we're talking about direct costs to the roads. I think that's what you're referring to. And on average, for the last 11 years, Pima County has received $33 million per year after sweeps, after bond payments, and this is from Mr. Huckleberry's own report, and those monies are not going directly to roads. And as we know, in District 1, the money was swept out of District 1. What little we got was $1 million for direct road payments. So the rest of that money is not going directly to road repair. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think you're correct, Mr. Huckleberry.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, this is an often misrepresented issue, and it's being misrepresented today. Our budget this year, the one that you're going to actually look at adopting, contains an operating budget or a budget revenue allocation to the Department of Transportation of over $51 million. Of that amount, and about $39 million is directly attributed to the operation, maintenance, construction, repair of the highway system. And that's everything from patching potholes to repaving roads, to striping the roads, to putting in the signs, to paying the staff that drive the dump trucks, the graders, the water trucks, the rollers, and all the other things that go into transportation system repairs. So that money is being spent every year. The unfortunate part is it's simply not enough to make an adequate dent in repairing the roadways and primarily pavement preservation. So this board, over the last, say, 2 to 3 years, has supplemented, which means added to the Transportation Department's revenues, which come from HERF and VLT, with the county's general fund. And the county's general fund comes from the property tax. The property tax comes from every taxpayer in Pima County, whether you're a city resident, a Sarita resident, a Marana resident, or a Lower Valley resident. And what this board has done is taken, in the last 2 years, it's been nearly $20 million. This year, there's a potential allocation. I think that's another issue that's misrepresented. It's only a recommendation I've made. This board hasn't made any allocation of general funds to the Department of Transportation this year, or for the coming year. And the difficulty that we have is that, and there's another discussion that says, well, I said it's a drop in the bucket. Well, the actual cost to repair adequately the roads and highways in the unincorporated area of Pima County that we have maintenance responsibility for is $300 million. If you then say someone's used a $3 million figure, well, that $3 million is 1% of the problem. It's likely that during that 1 year that investment has been made, there's been deterioration because these are assets that deteriorate over time of probably the same amount of money. So you're not making much progress. You really need to solve this problem over a 10-year period. But the difficulty we have with the general fund is that it comes from all taxpayers. And so it's somewhat inequitable to basically tax city residents to fix roads in the unincorporated area. We've done it because we haven't had any choice. But every dollar that we get in HERF, BLT, goes into the transportation system.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Carroll.
Madam Chair, I first want to thank Supervisor Elias and Supervisor Brunson for identifying that there is some maybe reports that have been circulated that aren't official documents that might have a difference compared to what Mr. Huckleberry just clarified. I think it was clear that we do use our HERF monies, but I know the budget for transportation pretty well. I'd like to restate, there's also a section of our HERF monies that we're using to pay back our 97 road bonds. And if we could get an estimate of that this year, Mr. Huckleberry, let's find out when the final payments will dissipate and when we can see an increase. And I also want to say, when it comes to our system with our HERF bonds that we approached and approved in 97 is through a vote of the people, that there were audits and there were accountability studies that proved that these dollars were being appropriately spent. Yet I do want to ask the county administrator the two questions. First off, what would the final payments of HERF, how many more years, at what level? And secondly, after 5 years in office, I've decided to take a risk and support a tax on gasoline. Maybe we say the legislature doesn't have an appetite for passing a resolution or a ballot proposition that would allow counties either separately or as a state to vote for an increase in gas tax, especially when we know if Congress ever does come back together to pass a transportation tax, we could see a large transportation gas tax come from a federal source. So those two items, I'm curious, how much would a gas tax bring to Pima County, whether it's a shared state resolution or proposition, or whether it's a local proposition, first off, and secondly, about the HERF bonds that we once put out there. And I like the system of bonds. I like the system not pay as you go, because as a Republican who doesn't vote, as I have not voted for this budget, nor did I vote to allocate the excess general funds for transportation, I do like a bond package. I do like projects that are delineated specifically to districts, because it does bring equity to all of our districts, in my opinion, and it has for the 5 terms I've been in office in my very close observation. So thank you, Mr. Huckleberry.
Thank you, Supervisor Carroll. Supervisor Miller.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to reiterate that data came directly from Mr. Huckleberry's Transportation Fund report, and the data is calculated after the HERF payment, or excuse me, the bond payments have been made, and after the HERF sweeps, which was over the past 11 years was a mere 34 million. And if you look at the result, we get an average of 33 million per year, and you're saying it's going directly to the roads. I think it's clear to everyone in this room that we're not repairing roads. I don't have to sit and calculate numbers and try to convince people. It's very clear that we have not been repairing the roads. Marana, Maricopa, Oro Valley, you drive in their neighborhoods, they had HERF sweeps too, but they made a budget that included repairs to the road, and they kept to that, and they pay their employees out of their budget, and they make sure the roads are repaired. That is what is wrong in Pima County, is we're not spending the money on road repairs, and you don't have to listen to me or Mr. Huckleberry up here with the numbers. All you have to do is drive on the roads and you can see it every single day. I know I do. So, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Elias.
You know, I just got a comment that the reality is that we have been working on the roads over time. Money that has been allocated to us from the state legislature via HERF has gone to improve our roads. Has it been enough? No. Clearly, it's not. Clearly, we need to find a fair, equitable way to fund this situation. But dollars out of the general fund offer no tax equity for the residents of District 5. 90% of the people who live in District 5 live inside the jurisdiction of the city of Tucson. Spending general fund dollars in small allocations of $5 million a year has been palatable to me 1 year. But that cannot go on. And those roads that we've improved with that $5 million allocation have been main arterials rather than neighborhood roads. We should not be taking neighborhood streets and improving them with general fund dollars, because then the residents of the jurisdictions of Pima County really receive no return. I could convince one of my residents that improving a main arterial up there at La Cañada and, let's say, Orange Grove is reasonable, because sooner or later they will drive on that road and they will receive a return on that investment. But when we improve neighborhood roads, we do not get that return. And in fact, it is a completely inequitable way to fund road improvements for Pima County. Do we need to find a solution to this problem? I think, like Mr. Huffman said, we do. And he spoke eloquently about that this morning. But we need to find one that is fair and that is efficient and is related to road use. A gas tax would be the most likely way to do that in a fair, equitable manner. Using general fund dollars does absolutely nothing for folks who live in District 5 and for any of the residents who live in any of the jurisdictions that are incorporated throughout Pima County. That's a severe problem. That cannot be. That is not justice. That is not fair. So, with that said, there's a couple other misconceptions that I'd like to mention as we go on. Yes, we have a tremendous amount of debt. Mr. Huckleberry, how much of that debt has been voter approved?
Madam Chair and Supervisor Elias, probably about 90% plus. And I think you also need to understand we're the only county in Arizona that operates a wastewater system, and half of that debt is related to our wastewater system.
Right. And that's based on the revenues that are earned from wastewater as well, as opposed to the general fund. The other conversation that has been brought up here this morning several times by folks, and I'm not arguing with any of the folks, because I've listened to what they say, and they have tremendous points, and I respect them all. And I especially respect those elders who face a pinch on their homes. But open space has been a discussion that's been taking place in our community for more than 20 years. And the Sonoran Desert Conservation Plan finally put us on a pathway of being fair, and one that everybody agreed on, one that everybody realized was a win-win for everybody, because the land that we protect helps make the other land that's available on the private side much more valuable. And everybody's understood that. And those purchases of open space, those dollars have been voter approved as well. This is not something that this board has decided to do just because it sounds like fun and games. This is a responsibility to our community to be good stewards of land. So I just wanted to talk about those misconceptions. I want to hear the rest of the speakers. I'm very interested in what they say. I'm concerned about their comments. But when it comes to paying for road improvements with general funds, there's a serious inequity that creates a very unfair situation for 40% of the taxpayers in Pima County, because guess what? 40% of them live in the city of Tucson. Those people receive very little return on that kind of investment. 90% of our debt is voter approved.
Open space purchases, like some of the ones we've done recently, were voter approved as well, and really the byproduct of a very difficult conversation that took place between landowners, land speculators, land developers, and a lot of people who had good hearts and cared about protecting the Sonoran Desert, just like the people who live in my neighborhood, and frankly, the people who live in my house.
Thank you. Carol Schwartz.
Hi, my name is Carol Sherwans. I'm an elementary school teacher in the public school system here. I've been a teacher for 11 years. I, unlike Mr. Huckleberry, have not received an increase in 5 years. In fact, Mr. Huckleberry, my whole year's salary is equal to your increase. And again, I have not received an increase in 5 years. I don't know where the tax increase money is going to come from our house. And I don't think I'm alone. I think there's a lot of people out here that haven't had increases in many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Grinnell.
Good morning, my name is Rick Grinnell, and I'm here representing my mother, Betsy Verdugo Grinnell, who's lived in the same house for over 55 years in Supervisor Bronson's district. I grew up in that house. My mother's 82, and like many at her age, she's on a limited income. This last summer, for the 5th time in a row, I said, Mom, let me buy you an air conditioner for the house. She says, no, I don't want an air conditioner. I can't afford the increase in the utility bill. She says, we grew up with fans. That'll work for me. We have a swamp cooler. Her health insurance has gone up. The price of gas goes up. The price of food goes up. Taxes continue to go up. And her income, I guarantee you, hasn't gone up proportionately. Now, we're sort of fortunate that she's got some kids that are able to help her out and do stuff for her, but there's many in this community that don't have that asset. There are many in this community that are struggling to pay the bills. And when you talk about property tax increases, you're not only talking about homeowners, you're talking about commercial property taxes that are going to be passed on to the renters, to the businesses. And that cost is a trickle-down effect that will be eventually absorbed by the consumers. To spend $1.75 million on a piece of vacant land, and Supervisor Elias, I would challenge your concept that the majority of people, less than 17% of the people voted to support the open space bonds, because they were held at a time when very few people even showed up at the polls. So let's talk about the reality of the taxpayer involvement. And we're responsible because we're apathetic. We don't show up and voice our concerns the way we should. I'm fortunate, I'm going to be okay. But I have 3 kids and 6 grandkids. What are we telling them? It's easier to spend money on stuff that has a very little return on the investment instead of taking care of our priorities. It's easy to continue to borrow money at an interest rate that is much higher than our income is rising each and every year. It's easier to spend money by our government than it is to the business owners that are struggling to keep people employed. You can sit here and justify all you want, but the fact is, the bottom line is, it costs more to live in Pima County than any other county in the state. It costs more to live in Pima County than anywhere in Texas. It's amazing how they're able to figure out priority spending in other regions around this state and around this country, and yet we struggle so that we can buy more vacant land. Enough is enough. And I'm going to close with this. At 17 years old, I joined the service. I served honorably for 4 years. I blew out both legs in my arm. I didn't serve this country to have my government turn around and take away the very freedoms I sought to preserve. The economic freedoms that we choose to expand on our own stuff so that we can benefit everybody. Government's role is to serve the people, not sit around and be served. God bless you.
Chris Keeney. Chris Keeney. Thank you.
My name's Chris Keeney, and I'm a recent transplant to Tucson, Arizona. I came here from Houston, Texas. I'm a business leader, I'm a family man, I'm a youth and adult sports advocate. And I may not be popular today, but I'm going to talk to you guys about what I perceive to be an amazing thing about Tucson. Moving here from Houston, incredible lifestyle, incredible quality of life. Quality of life really does matter. And I think it's an opportunity for these 167 acres to be invested so that we can continue to build our quality of life. Some of the benefits that I see right away from this investment would be, we've heard another speaker talk about the park plans or our area parks not being well supported. Well, one byproduct of these field complexes is to reduce the stress on the rest of our parks, which gives them a chance to be green. And I think green is something that in the middle of the desert is a beautiful thing. I'm very proud to be from Tucson. I think that this project would also increase tourism opportunities, and I think that's been discussed. I think it would increase new business development. And I'm not sure what's happening with the Tesla plant or these other opportunities that as we get considered as a community. But I hope that, I would think that that would be another asset that we could offer businesses to come invest and come grow with us in Tucson. As we saw yesterday, I hope this doesn't become a battle between whether one sport or another is important, but as we saw that soccer is incredibly important in this country. We saw it at our own playground, which is a local city property, and it's packed full of fans who are investing their monies in our city so that we can continue to build this energy. I'm excited by the investment. I see the opportunity in it. I'm at a point in my life where I'm 44, so I'm seeing the senior side of things as well as still my kids' side of things. And I think that this is a wonderful way to continue to put Tucson and Pima County on the map for the greater good, so that we can all get the other things that we do really want, which are the improved roads, which are the everything that makes sense to be, again, a great quality of life. And this is an example to be able to approach a prestigious group like this, to be able to speak as a citizen, and I thank you for that. This has been a terrific investment in your population, in your citizenship, and the oasis that I consider Pima County. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Johnson.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board, members of the public, and fellow taxpayers. My name is Brian Johnson, and I'm a county employee and an SEIU union member. As you vote to adopt this year's budget, you have the opportunity to take a step in the right direction. The budget funds many county services at a more realistic and responsible level. It is a step that is absolutely necessary to avoid service cuts to the public and maintain our ability to serve the public in our libraries, recreation, public safety, and justice systems, just to name a few. Employees, like many in our community, have a long way to go for our wages to reflect the cost of living, as well as our efforts to serve the public. But we're encouraged by the options in this year's budget, especially wage plans focus on the lowest wage earners in Pima County. In future budgets, we ask that this board consider what it will take to attract and retain the hardest working and most talented employees. We look forward to continuing to work with county management, as CIU is, to provide quality services to the residents of Pima County, and we appreciate that you consider a wage increase that benefits lower wage earners. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Bob Dorson.
Good morning, I'm Bob Dorson. I wasn't going to speak today, but I really felt that I need to have my voice be heard.
I've lived in Tucson since 1953, and I will tell you that I really appreciate what our city and county government had done for me, for when I was growing up, the land and the places that I could go, the opportunities that my children had, and they're now grown. And I think we all need to go and look towards the future and keep that in mind, that we don't want to go and restrict ourselves. We do have to go and plan for the future. We have to go and purchase properties that are appropriate. Whether the soccer field is appropriate, we really need to look at that completely, but it certainly is something that we need to plan for. And my kids are no longer going to be playing soccer. I'm not going to be playing soccer, but if we look and say, oh, well, you know what, I'm never going to be out there, I'm never going to use it, well, that's like saying, you know what, I already went to school. I'm not going to the elementary schools anymore. My kids already went to school. I don't need those things anymore. It's just too easy to go and push that off to the side. You know, maybe what we need to do is take a little closer look at some of our budget items and see if there's somewhere we can go and reduce what this increase is going to be. But I think we also recognize that we really need to go and bite the bullet sometimes, and there are things that we need to spend money on. I hope that the courts certainly get the money that they definitely need. But to look and say, well, you know what, I'm already here, you know, I don't want to spend money on anything else in the future. That's being pretty short-sighted. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our final speaker. What's pleasure to forward? That concludes the hearings.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Carroll, we're now...
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, but during the meeting, and
well,
some of the
okay.
speakers, I had a question for Mr. Huckleberry that I was hoping that he could clarify the payments that will be left and the years left on the 97 bonds for an estimate. And secondly, we'd like to know about revenues that could be generated through whether county or state sales tax on gasoline per gallon up to 10 cents. Obviously, that would have to be referred to the ballot by the legislature, whether it were statewide or in counties, but it's certainly up to 10 cents. Is an incremental earmarked resource that I'd like to know the benefit of, Mr. Huckleberry. Thank you.
Mr. Hart, are you prepared to answer now? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair and Supervisor Carroll. We're in the very end of the 97 bond issue implementation, and so what we are seeing is that our debt service is peaking now. It'll start to drop in a few years, and then ultimately go to zero within less than probably 10. But it's still, today, the transfer payment that's scheduled in this budget is about $18 million. So that's money that comes off the top of our distribution of HERT and BLT. So, you know, it's not going to, we're not going to see any immediate relief. That number will start to go down, but it's not going to drop dramatically. I think the second question you had is, what revenues do we need and what revenues could a 10-cent gallon gasoline tax, or up to 10 cents? And I think if you just simply do the math and proportion, the 18-cent a gallon gas tax today hasn't been increased in about 23 years. And so if you were to proportion a 10 cent over the 18, you're going to see that's about a 30 to 40% increase. The share of the HERF that the county gets is about 35 to, you know, as much as 40, depending upon the shifts. So you just simply say it's likely that you would get between 30 and 40% increase over that. And that's probably about $15 to $20 million a year. To adequately address the problem we have with the unincorporated pavement preservation, you really need to try and address that over a 10-year period. If you do that, it means you're going to be trying to find new revenues of about $30 million a year to bring those streets up to standard within that time frame. And the reason a 10-year period is appropriate because this is pavement repair and resurfacing that in many cases probably hasn't been done in 20 years. And what we really need to do is repair the roads adequately and then continue to maintain them so they don't deteriorate to the point they have already. So a local gas tax, authority, any other revenue source, what you're going to need to adequately fix the roads is anywhere between $20 and $30 million in new revenue every year for at least the next 10 years.
Thank you, Ms. Gobert.
Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Huckleberry. And just again, should remind the audience and those people, Mr. Elias mentioned the 40% of this county that would not benefit from the $5 million general fund allocation towards road preservation. But I do want to also remind people that in the future, the 40% of the constituents that are in the county, non-jurisdictions, but the jurisdiction of Pima County, maintaining just the arterial roads, would not benefit from a pay-as-you-go system, in my opinion, after this many years, because of the fact that pay-as-you-go system would be a result of being directed to 3 votes on this Board of Supervisors. And if you've seen letters behind our names, there are 2 Republicans and 3 Democrats. And most of us all recognize nationally that fiscal issues especially are those that bipartisanship especially rears its head. So I want to say that be careful what you wish for, and know that it's important for all of us, especially me in my experience as a Republican that represents fixed income people all the way from Green Valley to the east side, including the town of Summerhaven and Mount Lemmon. We have enormous needs, and we have very limited resources that come our way annually in this budget process for roads. We are at the mercy. Obviously, supervisors who have been Republican as long as I've been on this board have teamed together and voted against the budget at budget hearing final adoption day. But I do want to remind people that it's important for us to realize that unlimited need and limited resources are what force all of us to be community-minded and work as stakeholders to produce bond elections. And to do that, we have to go about a coalition building process, which takes in many people from all over Pima County's interests and needs and wants. So I just want to, for the record, say that. I don't plan on supporting this budget, but I do plan on supporting reasonable solutions to our problems as we continue to serve this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Carroll. I asked what the pleasure of the board was. This hearing has been going on for about 2 hours now. Would the board, before we move on to item 6, and 6 through 11, like to take a short break?
Let's finish this off, and then we'll take a break. I think that's fair to people who have spent their morning here with us, and we should be responsible to that. We only have a few more minutes, I think, of discussion that really needs to happen.
Okay, well, we've concluded the final budget, truth and taxation hearing, final budget hearing and truth and taxation hearing. So now, as we move forward in adopting this coming year's budget, I want to perhaps put some things in perspective. I want to thank all our speakers today for providing us with their view on this budget, this coming budget. But having listened to them, it's clear that some kind of tax rate, at least in my mind, rate hike is inevitable. But as I look at the budget, and I look at the 9 supplemental budget packages that the county administrator has recommended, they total about over $24 million. I think that as we have heard from the courts, some of these may need to be funded, but I think some of them, in my mind, might be questionable or might be delayed, thus delaying their fiscal impact. And in the past, when this board has approved the supplemental funding packages, we have allowed those funds to flow directly to the department or agency involved in the request. I feel at this point we need to end that practice no department and agency should assume that if the board approves any supplemental package, that it will be funded. And for this reason, I think we should collectively take all that 24 plus million for those 9 packages and put them in a budget and tax rate stabilization fund within the general fund contingency until each agency or department requesting those funds can provide detailed justification that satisfies the board's, that satisfies the board that these allocations are justified. That's my view. I'll open it up for discussion. Supervisor Elias.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would agree with that about the 9 packages. I think they're all good, but we need to have some more clarification on them. We need to place them in that budget stabilization fund. I think that's a fine idea until we've received further justifications for them, and ultimately they should be subject to a recommendation of the county administrator and a vote of this Board of Supervisors to ratify spending those funds.
To ratify and to
Exactly.
release the funds.
Exactly, to release those funds. I think that's an important facet of all of this. I think also that we should take a look at employee compensation and make sure the compensation that we do have available for across the board raises for our employees, be 50 cents an hour for every employee so that we impact those employees who are at the bottom end of our pay spectrum initially first. And I also do think that we ought to be careful with that, with the road money that we've looked at and if we place it into that budget stabilization fund. And I would think that Mr. Huckleberry should have a very thorough examination with his staff and others about reasonable alternatives that are more equitable to taxpayers all across the board here in Pima County in terms of road improvements. And I think that discussion needs to take place this summer so that we have a response to the public on this very critical issue. But in the meantime, we place those dollars in that budget stabilization fund minus the money that we're going to spend to purchase those properties that could be that soccer complex for our future, because I think it'll bring us significant revenue, affect the health of our children, and ultimately be the right thing to do well into the future for our community. All of those things are mixed in, but I think we should move forward now. If there's other discussion that takes place, that's fine as we get to the item, but I'd like to go ahead and move item 6, the Flood Control District final budget for 2014.
Wait, I think we've got,
go ahead.
We still have some people who want to speak.
Well, I was saying, if you want to speak to flood control, that's fine. I was going to say, let's just move on.
Speak in general.
Okay, very well. That's fine. Take it.
Okay, Supervisor Valadez.
Madam Chair, I've sat back and I've listened to a lot of the discussion and I empathize with many of the people here, and more so even with people that aren't here today. We're placed in a very, very difficult position because frankly I don't believe that any one of us likes the idea of raising rates. And that's what it is, raising rates. I mean, my friend's former colleague, Representative Huffman, called it alchemy. And it might be alchemy, but frankly, it's the rate, not necessarily the levy. But the truth is that in order to move forward, in order to, as Mr. Eddy, I pointed out to him, we have services we have to provide. Just like they have services they have to provide. I understand it, I get it, but I was trying to make the point that we're pretty much the same. Which is why when I received the letter yesterday, my first question was, how are we not the same? We're put in a position where we have absorbed the bulk of the drop in the assessed value. That's the value of property in Pima County, and it's been substantial. It's been unprecedented. The likes of which we've never seen. And we've absorbed it, and we haven't raised the rates. We haven't raised property taxes. We've said, we'll tighten our belt, we will do what we can to make sure that we would do what any of you would do.
because that's the fair thing to do, and we did that. We've reached a point, frankly, where we've cut our workforce. We haven't given pay raise until Smallwood yesterday. We haven't done some of the things we needed to do because we couldn't afford to. But the time has come. The time has come when we need to look at the future. And I think the soccer stadium, and I'll refer to that a little bit more, or the potential soccer stadium, is part of that look into the future. We've also started, and the chair started a discussion in terms of a change in fiscal policy that this board institutes for this county. In the past, we've appropriated monies and then we've let them go to each of the departments and the elected officials in that manner. That ends today. As of today, with a policy that she's talking about instituting, and I support 100%, is that we're going to take back our legislative authority of appropriation and allocation. It is ours. It does not belong to any other elected official. It is ours alone. As of today, the practice is you're going to have to justify the expenses that are in these decision packages. In particular, I look at, right now, my colleagues have talked about some of the other points, and I'd like to talk a little bit about IT, information technology. We've created a culture whereby we have allowed, and frankly, in some cases, acquiesced is a more appropriate word, where there have been silos created in this county. Silos where departments and other elected officials are allowed to have their own information technology, and we've lacked the ability to take advantage of economies of scale, which is ridiculous, and it's not responsible. That ends today. We need to direct our staff, and through the county administrator, those silos need to go away. We need to centralize and make most effective use of those monies that we choose to spend in technology. We've done so in terms of our storage, and we've done a fabulous job at that. But we need to go further. We need to make sure that we maximize the biggest bang for the buck. That's why I'm supporting a program to lease our computers as opposed to buy them, because on an annual basis, it saves the taxpayers money. I also think that we need to take a step forward, and again, referring back to those silos, those need to go away. When we allow other elected officials in this county to use an authority for appropriation they do not have, we are allowing them to spend taxpayers' money that, frankly, this board alone is responsible for. This board, not that elected official. Those need to end. We need to make sure that when we talk about information technology and the technology that we can use, we maximize that benefit to our residents and to our voters, but that we also make sure that those silos that have been allowed to continue to exist go away. Now, Supervisor Elias made a wonderful point in terms of both of our employees and road monies, and to the discussion about employees and their salary increases. Our employees, absolutely, whether they be in the clerk, county employees, the courts, deserve a pay increase, and they haven't gotten one for many years. Up until last year, they got some increase. And I think we need to move forward. And I think Supervisor Elias and I, during the tentative budget adoption, also made the point that we need to move forward with the 50-cent an hour increase, because that way our lowest paid employees see the greatest benefit. And I need to direct the staff through the county administrator again to take a look more realistically at which departments can and cannot pay for that increase. And then we need to do something going forward to address the needs of those departments that can't afford to do that. Now, relative to road monies. Last year I remember that 3 members, only 3 members of this board, supported an allocation of $5 million out of the general fund. 3 members. One of them already spoke, now I'm going to speak. 87% of my district is in the municipalities of Tucson, South Tucson, and Sahuarita. 87% of District 2 cannot get any benefit from those $5 million. For the record, District 2 received $94,000 out of $5 million. That is not equitable in any way, shape, or form, and on whose planet do you think that is fair? Supervisor Elias referred to the inequity. That number alone tells you the inequity of that funding mechanism. Last year, the only reason I supported that change was because we were led to believe that those improvements were going to be on major regional thoroughfares. That didn't happen. That is why I would be reticent to appropriate any more money out of the general fund to do this. The purpose of why I voted yes in the majority was that it didn't happen. Now, going to the soccer fields, that is a dream I think many of us have shared for a number of times, and I've been actively involved on it as others on this board have for a number of years. I think Chris referred to it as an investment. I think Bob referred to it as an investment. And folks, that's what it is. You know, will it bring a tournament? In 2009, in the peak of the recession, Phoenix realized an economic impact of over $115 million in one tournament, in a 24-field complex. One tournament. We've heard the numbers. Yeah, you know what? Can we realize an economic benefit? Absolutely. But why are we doing this? This isn't really just an investment for economics. This is an investment in our kids. This is an investment. Would you rather have our children playing soccer, or would you rather have them on the streets doing God knows what, or learning to do other things? I mean, it's a really easy argument to understand. So, I think we've covered some of the other issues that we talked about. Supervisor Elias talked about the bond debt and the fact that, frankly, it is voter approved. We've heard a lot about the fact that we've done it. No, we haven't. This community has done it. And yes, I voted yes, and I think many of my colleagues here voted yes. But it was something we all in Pima County did. So, with that, Madam Chair, I conclude my comments.
Madam Carroll.
Madam Chair, I risk following that reality check, which certainly to Mr. Valadez and Mr. Elias holds credibility and reasonableness. But I do want you to know that although I oppose the recommended removal of transportation funding, the $5 million that's hanging in the balance here, I do want to say that I hope to demonstrate the priority that your goodwill towards the balance of your supervisorial districts is paid off, and I plan on making sure the residents and the beneficiaries of the road work that is done in District 4 realizes they owe your district's gratitude and thanks. I do know that when it was suggested that the monies come from the general fund to maybe compensate for the sweeps from the state legislature, or maybe compensate for the increase in the cost of road building, etc. I always thought we could somehow find a happy medium to make the $5 million continue for each and every board member's districts, and I hope that can continue. I do want to say that as I hear all the speakers today, I'm reminded to the very first speaker that we had, to the last speaker, that all these tax dollars are certainly going to finance our county government today. But in the end, we have had some at least review and maybe some positive signs of green shoots or increasing prosperity for our local economy. And lastly, I think we've had the board majority has spoken to say that they're going to put some restrictions on the supplemental budget packages that have been put forward by line officers. And no disrespect to any of them, but I'd like to point out one for an example. the Pima County Sheriff's Department and their supplemental request, I'm in favor of letting that go through the board stabilization fund and to be justified. I've talked to Chris Nanos recently from the Sheriff's Department, and certainly, without getting political, everyone knows at the Sheriff's Department how the Board of Supervisors has supported law enforcement agencies, all of them, over the efforts. And in particular, year after year, we've covered the budget exceedances of the Sheriff's Department. Making our base budget whole this year, we're going to need to backfill $6 million to the Sheriff's Department. And to continue the process without putting it in the contingency fund or the board stabilization fund to be delineated and to be, let's say, verified and double-checked and audited for a request, and to make sure it's not duplicating efforts, as Supervisor Elias said, with technology and information services. What did I say? I'm so sorry. I looked right at you, and I'm trying to, unlike you two, I'm not as able off the cuff, so I apologize. I will say that I apologize for that misreport. But the sheriff needs to join the county in coordinating the budget process for all of us in the future. And I hope that this year, the sheriff's supplemental package of the nearly $2.6 million that at least consists of information technology requests can be delayed until after the downtown public service center is up and running, because the new public service center should have information technologies that will be comprehensive and inclusive of the sheriff's department, can save them money and hopefully save them time for our constituents. As I've said earlier, I can't be for the things that are in this budget today, but I have tried to be responsible and recognize that there are some things that I can be for, and that's to increase our revenues through the state gas tax, shared or new. And I want to say that as a Republican, I would be able and ready to go to Phoenix and try to get some of our future legislators to think about how we're going to pay for these road projects that are so in demand of our county. Thank you, Madam Chair and Supervisors.
Thank you, Supervisor Carroll. Supervisor Miller.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a few comments. On the soccer field, Mr. Huckleberry, back in January, there was an article in the Arizona Daily Star, and I'll quote you directly. And it was regarding when Glendale was asking for support from the state for the Super Bowl. He said, in fact, we have cautioned, and our Sports and Tourism Authority concurs, that chasing economic return on the promise of private, for-profit sports entities like Major League Baseball or other sports is an inappropriate economic development course. I really wonder what has changed in the last 6 months. Now, that being said, Pima County taxpayers, we're in a crucial time for spending, for our senior citizens being able to survive this economy. And with this budget, this is not happening. We're not cutting spending down to the core services. With this budget, what is not happening with the proposed purchase of the soccer park? This is $1.75 million out of the proposed $5 million that was now going into this budget stabilization fund, I assume. We don't even know if we're going to get county monies for roads now. And what we have to remember is we're doing this on a hope and a dream. Because if this $1.75 million down payment, if we don't get a bond passed, guess what? Next year you'll be back here looking at another tax increase to pay the $1.7 million per year, 5-year payments, to pay for this whole parcel of land, and we'll own a nice parcel of dirt because we won't be able to afford to build these soccer fields on it. When the board approved a 2-year IGA with the University of Arizona a few weeks ago, giving them $15 million per year for graduate medical education, it was clear to me the priorities weren't going in the right direction. Continuing with close to $1 million per year for the communications department. That is not an essential service. I mean, Pinal County uses 1 employee. Continuing to fund items out of the Board of Supervisors contingency fund that are clearly ongoing events and contributions to nonprofits. Doesn't meet the definition of unexpected and urgent purchases, yet we have these year after year. Road repairs in Pima County have not happened for the last 15 years. I'm not telling you anything, you only drive down the roads. As I said, we have received an average of $33 million per year after the sweeps and bond payments, and this is directly from Mr. Huckleberry's transportation report I received in 2013. I'll be happy to share that with anyone that wants to see it. The Sheriff Department funding should be among our top priorities. Public safety is crucial. That includes both the sheriff, the courts, the prosecutor, and the public defender offices. Grant monies that previously supported our sheriff department have dried up. And what we did is we act as like many do when they're getting bonus money on their paychecks, they start spending as if this is going to continue forever. Rather than planning ahead, we now find ourselves in a very difficult situation. Employee raises. Employee salaries were suggested as a decision package, but it is set to be funded within the current budgets of the various departments. Funding of these raises is not being done, yet we continue donating $15 million per year for graduate medical education for medical school students at the University of Arizona. We continue funding TRIO, our economic development department, $450,000 a year, and the return on this investment has yet to be seen. I think someone said somewhere around 800 jobs in the last year. Well, Phoenix continues booming. We haven't cut the communications department. As I said, Pinal County has one communications employee, and we are spending an additional $4.5 million on parks allocated in the flood control department and loop projects that we cannot afford. This is a slap in the face to all of the employees of Pima County. $200 million in certificates of participation for various debt incurred, such as on the courthouse, will be having a significant impact on our primary operating budget. This is non-voter approved bonds that have been issued. This is debt, this is debt that has been approved and is shifting debt from the secondary to the primary budget. No, they're not bonds, it's debt that's issued against an asset. Instead, Pima County Board has continued spending on these items that we can no longer afford. If this tax increase of 61 cents per $100 of assessed value is approved today, our general fund reserves are projected to be at 3.6%. That is down from 4.8% last year and down from the optimum of 5%. This is a possible impact, this could have a possible impact on our bond rating and our ability to receive favorable rates on future bond issues. This will bring our primary property tax rate to $4.27 per $100 of assessed value and is close to a 17% rate increase for the primary property tax rate. Seniors on fixed incomes can no longer afford to absorb these increases. Families are struggling to survive on low wages due to lack of jobs, yet we're talking about investing in a soccer park on a hope and a dream. I have seen no data, no studies, no analysis. We're just saying, yeah, it's going to happen. Just like baseball was going to happen. And we're putting it in an area where baseball failed. This doesn't make any sense to me. The economic recovery hasn't yet begun in Pima County, and for the past 15 years, the roads have been allowed to crumble. That is a core service, and we are acting irresponsibly with taxpayer money if we approve this budget and this tax increase today. I've outlined my concerns, and I again feel that we are not prioritizing core services as we should, or working together to rebuild the trust of the taxpayers if we approve this budget today. Thank you.
Supervisor Carroll brings up an interesting point with the sheriff, but that speaks to, I think, a larger issue, and that is the funding of our entire justice and law enforcement system. That's 62% of the budget. Much of the need to raise property taxes is a result of justice and law enforcement. So I would ask Mr. Huckleberry, and I would ask my fellow board members, whether it's the county attorney who has perhaps the highest trial rate in Arizona, or the cost to the indigent defense system. I think that it's time to, as we talk about accountability, to reinstitute our Justice Coordinating Council, and this time the council's got to have real authority in budget decisions so that no one component of the justice and law enforcement system can gain advantage over another. This is what drives most of our budget, and I think there needs to be accountability there.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Carroll.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. And we celebrate the fact that Barbara Lawal has done work that's made her recognized nationally. But one thing that she has done consistently since taking office was to keep our trial rate way high, 3 times above the national average. And yesterday, just in Presidio Park, I had the chance to interview famed defense attorney Joe St. Louis, who gave me a very recent example of, I'm not a client.
Thank you for
I just want that clarified. I've never had a problem that way, but he is a very famed attorney, and I do want to say that he had a felony recently that he was ready to plead, and it went to trial, and it didn't work out for us or the taxpayers. It worked out against us. So I do want to say it's been an issue that another defense attorney, Bob Hirsch, before he worked with us, our indigent defense group has always made it very clear, from Susan Kettlewell all the way to the current staff, as well as Robert Hooker, who delineated very clearly that that trial rate drives our justice in court and law expenses through the roof annually. And I hate to question it, because you know, you have to be then ready to go back to school, pass the bar, and run against Barbara Lawal. That's not what I intend to do. I ask that you will join in some of the belt tightening and think about taking the trial rate to what's the norm in the nation. Not what's best on the front page, but what's the norm in the nation to bring down all related costs of justice and law enforcement. And that's from a long experience in dealing with these budgets each and every year. Thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing it up. And I'm expecting to hear from Barbara Wall very soon.
Madam Chair.
I hope it's not in the courtroom.
There she is now.
Thank you.
Supervisor Elias.
I just wanted to make a couple comments here because I think they're important. The subsidy that's going into helping the graduate program for doctors at U of A Hospital South has been a success. We are training more doctors who are going to stay here in Tucson and practice. And while we've been doing that, we've been busy saving people's lives on the south side. I'm not ashamed of that. I think it's important. This community had a huge discussion about that, and we recognize the importance of the geographic locations of hospitals. There are no other public hospitals south of Broadway. That is an issue for people, for mothers, for children, for any of us who drive to the airport and may get in an accident along the way. It just might be that one of those folks would save your life. And God bless them. I hope they continue on doing their work. It's important to all of us. It's a wise investment to have a hospital on the south side of Tucson. Unashamed of that completely. We have continued to fund the sheriff in a consistent manner, and 60% basically of our general funds go to fund public safety. 3 jails, 3 courts, sheriffs, Pima County attorneys. We've done a good job. They've done a good job. Yes, I think it's a good idea to bring back the Justice Coordinating Council with some work to do, because it's a huge expense. We have to recognize that, but we also have to honor them for doing the work that they do. I'll do that right here and now, because I'm proud of every single one of them. Do we have issues that need to be confronted? Yeah, absolutely. because we can always try and do a little bit better, and that's where a big part of the money goes. You know, there's also been a lot of discussion about these soccer fields and their locations. And it is an area where we have a lot of things coming. A lot of homes being built in that area. A lot of additional investment being made by the private sector. And we've provided a portion of that land that we're looking at purchasing to provide more opportunities for private investment on that property. This is not just some soccer fields that are going to sit there by themselves, folks. This is something that's going to be good for us well into the future. So the opportunity is huge. It's right along the interstate. There's nothing wrong with that area. I'll stand up for my brothers and sisters in District 2 on the south side, just like I stand up for the people who live in Barrio Hollywood, just like I stand up for the people who live on 12th Avenue. I ain't ashamed of none of them. I'm proud of all my brothers and sisters. I'm proud of the areas of town we live in. Enough said.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to add one more comment. When Supervisor Elias was discussing the roads and how it did benefit his district, here is the perfect example of how soccer fields are not benefiting other districts, and I just would like to add that point.
Actually, soccer fields, if those dollars circulate in this community, benefits the entire community.
Well, that's if. That's a big if.
Well, it's Supervisor Carroll.
Madam Chair, I just want to say, you know, there has been studies by Visit Tucson, by the U of A College, other school, on these tournament facilities, but I'm not here to defend or change the dialogue. I'm just here to say that I've seen the reports on the Fort Lowell turnout, and the Board of Realtors that puts it on, thank you. Staggering, and it's community-wide, the benefit. I just don't want to let that comment go without correcting what I see as the perception. Those dollars, Fort Lowell soccer tournament, where it started and where it is today, benefits all of us. And with a kid that plays Division I sports, I want to say it brings scholarships to kids. Okay, I know a lot of kids that went through soccer, whether it's TSA, the Tucson Soccer Academy, or whether it was just through the YSL. I want to say that a lot of those kids have made me proud to know them as they went to Stanford, as they went across to the Ivy Leagues, as they went all across our nation, doing a full-time job and getting their education because they went out and kicked some grass. And thank you very much for bringing that up, so I can say I think there's a huge benefit for this community in that soccer stadium.
Thank you, Supervisor Carroll. Supervisor Elias and Supervisor Miller.
I was going to go ahead and move on into approving these budgets, but Supervisor Miller has another comment.
I just have one comment.
I'm very willing
The
to
same
hear.
thing was said about Major League Baseball, and I think we all know what happened there. Thank you.
I think you're comparing apples and oranges, but
Madam Chair, once again, to stop, I'm talking about Fort Lowell soccer tournament. I live a half a block from Fort Lowell Park. Talking about these types of tournaments are county-wide beneficiaries. Okay, that's what I'm bringing up. So I hate to be corrected and have the perception change of what my comment was. My comment is, yeah, these tournaments are kind of county-centric, and they are proving a benefit to the county. And that was proven by the other school and Visit Tucson studies that I've seen.
Thank you,
I'm not a
Supervisor.
stockholder of FC Tucson, but I appreciate Coach being here.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Elias, we need to close the public hearing for the budget and the truth and taxation first.
I'll move to close the public hearing on the final budget and truth and taxation. Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll?
Oh, yes, I'll close the hearing. I'll move to close the hearing. Yeah, I mean, thank you. It's been a long hearing.
Supervisor Elias?
Yes.
Supervisor Miller?
No.
Supervisor Valadez?
Aye.
Chair Bronson?
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on then to Board of Supervisors sitting as other boards, the Flood Control District Board, final budget for fiscal year 2014-15, and resolution 2014 FC3. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Valdez.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item number 6, resolution number 2014 FC3 for a budget amount of $17,096,728 and a rate of 0.3035.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to comment that this is an increase of $4.5 million, utilizing additional funds for parks, recreation, and natural resources for the loop with 25 miles of river parks, including the loop. We cannot afford this and adding more parks and loop projects at this time, so I will be voting no.
Any further comments?
Madam Chair, I'd explain my vote by saying this is a secondary tax item. This budget is obviously gone for taking care of our floodways, our flood-prone lands, as well as our drastic results of everything from this Aspen fire on Mount Lemmon to our floods of the recent decade. So I want to say I'm in support of flood control. I do know it's a legal use of the funding to include some of the river park, but I say that that's a worthy goal since it does provide flood control for all of our communities. Thank you.
Okay, well, any further comments? Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll?
See.
Supervisor Diaz?
Aye.
Supervisor Miller?
No.
Supervisor Valdez?
Aye.
Chair Bronson?
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to Improvement District Board, item 7, and resolutions number 14, 18, and 21, as well as street lighting improvement districts. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Carroll.
I'd like to move item 7. Once again, these improvement districts were voted on by a majority of the people that live in these residential areas or neighborhoods, and I'd like to go ahead and move. Do I have to close the public hearing?
No, we close the
I'd like to move
hearings.
on item 7, resolution number 14, resolution number 18, resolution number 21, and I need to name all these, the street lighting improvement districts for, as listed on the meeting agenda, on page 3 of the budget book from Desert Steps all the way to Salida del Sol.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll?
Aye.
Supervisor Diaz?
Aye.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Supervisor Valdez?
Aye.
Chair Bronson?
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to item 8, Library District Board and Resolution 2014 LD1.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor Valdez.
I move that we approve item number 8, resolution number 2014 LD1 with a budget of $37,772,853 and a tax rate of 0.4353%.
Second.
There's motion and a second. Discussion?
Madam Chair, I would have liked to have seen Library District Board cut their budget in much the same way the other departments reduced their spending. Thank you.
Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll?
I vote aye for the Library District final budget.
Supervisor Diaz?
Aye.
Supervisor Miller?
No.
Supervisor Valdez?
Aye.
Chair Bronson?
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to Stadium District Board and Resolution 2014 SD1. What's Supervisor Valdez?
Move that we approve item number 9, resolution number 2014-SD1 for a budget of $5,253,097.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Miller.
I'd just like to say the original allocation of $1.5 million has now increased to $2.2 million after we built 4 more fields and bleachers, which we could not sustain with the existing stadium budget without a subsidy from the general fund, and we need to cut back on spending here. Thank you.
Roll call.
Supervisor Carroll?
No.
Supervisor Diaz?
Aye.
Supervisor Miller?
No.
Supervisor Valdez?
Aye.
Chair Bronson?
Aye. Motion carries. Board of Supervisors, sitting as the Board of Supervisors, item 10, final budget for fiscal year 2014-2015 and resolution 2014-57. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Valdez.
With your indulgence, I'll go ahead and take one item separately from this for a separate vote.
Okay.
I am going to move the 50-cent pay increase for our employees, along with directing staff to give us a report back of which agencies and departments can and cannot afford this entity, and I ask for a roll call vote.
Roll call. Motion and a second, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Supervisor Miller.
I have a question regarding that 50 cents. Is there going to be a top level salary? Is that for every employee? Every employee, okay, thank you.
Roll call.
Not us. Not us. We can only get money from the state.
I get that.
I just thought that.
Supervisor Carroll? Supervisor Diaz?
Aye.
Supervisor Miller?
No.
Supervisor Valadez?
Aye.
Chair Bronson?
Aye, motion carries. Supervisor Valdez.
Madam Chair, I move that we move the remainder of the budget, item number 10, resolution 2014-57 in the manner discussed in the board discussion.
And for a budget,
Oh, I'm sorry, and for a budget of $1,188,464,252 and a tax rate of 4.2779.
Second, Madam Chair.
there's a motion and a second. Before we go to a roll call vote, I need to confirm with Mr. Huckleberry that he is clear in the direction that we gave him in the discussion about this budget.
Madam Chair, yes.